Hey, you geeks! Chapters 3 and 4 were quite a revelation. Again, Sanderson has read us snippets of these before, but he omitted some key details that I was not prepared for.
But I wasn't prepared for this.
So, without further ado, full spoiler warning as we dive on into my impressions of chapters 3 and 4. There were a lot, and if you don't see something in the video, it was probably on the list, but did not make the cut. Where on Roshar is Ba Ada Mishram.
We're on the case and we're chasing her through history.
I was prepared for the news that Ba Ada Mishram was captured in a gemstone that was then yeeted into the spiritual realm. That's been out since C2B2, and I've already done a video on it. To recap, Kalak tells Shallan that Mishram, for all her power, is a Sprun. The Radiants prepared a flawless Heliodor, the color of sunlight, and they trapped her inside, then hid her prison, not in the physical realm, and not in Shadesmar. He bit his lip, then forced out another part. In the spiritual realm, Malishi hid it there. Although I was prepared for this, it still boggles my mind, and I think Pattern is right to predict death. However, Sanderson has given us plenty of glimpses into the spiritual realm as it overlaps the physical. Most importantly, the visions that shards have been dragging people into since Way of Kings. Most importantly, in Rhythm of War, Odium dragged Taravangian and his notes into a vision where some of the pages disappeared. The golden expanse faded, depositing Taravangian on the floor of his storm wagon. He opened his hand, finding the fragment of the diagram in it, but the other pieces were gone. They had vanished when the vision ended. That stunned him, for it implied that he had truly been in another place. That he'd taken the papers there with him, but only this one piece remained when he returned. Now, Taravangian used this knowledge that he could bring physical objects into the pseudo-spiritual realm to kill Odium. So what if Malishi used this to bring Ba Ada Mishram's Heliodor there and just let it go? Dead Spren talking. The second biggest shock for me from Shallan's chapter was how chatty Maya Lauren is and, more importantly, what she is saying. It's because, Maya said, humans have no honor. The god. I heard that Mishram had been captured. I heard that radiance would destroy the world. That was why I decided I was done. These sentences baffle me on so many levels. For we know from the visions that Honor witnessed the recreants and therefore could not be dead yet.
He is not yet dead. That's what the geezer said. No, he's not yet dead.
We've also been told by the Stormfather that Honor's prediction of the end of Roshar was a bit more ambiguous. Honor raved, speaking of the Dawn Shards, ancient weapons used to destroy the Tranquiline Halls. Honor promised that Surge Binders would do the same to Roshar. Now, the crucial question arises. Did Honor say Surge Binder or Radiant? We've seen plenty of other Surge Binders on Roshar, such as Heralds and Fused, who could totally destroy Roshar without the Radiants having to disband.
Well, which is it? That seems like a pretty crucial conjunction.
On the one hand, Maya may have just gotten her information through the rumor mill, which is untrustworthy, while we got our info firsthand from the Stormfather himself, who we now find may or may not be completely trustworthy. And with hindsight, Dalinar actually has had multiple Stormfather voices in his head, as happened an Oathbringer before the meeting in Thaylen City. Unite them! A voice whispered in Dalinar's mind, echoing with the same resonant sound from months ago, when Dalinar had first started seeing the visions. "I'm doing so," Dalinar whispered back. "Unite them!" "Stormfather, is that you? Why do you keep saying this to me?" "I said nothing." Not to mention, in words of radiance, a Stormfather-esque voice definitely told Kaladin that Syl was dead, when even by Spren definitions, that was debatable, and no one's really called him out on this. So there is certainly something strange upon the winds, but I now don't think it was the winds themselves. The Wind Revisited. Okay, was I too quick to judge the random, mysterious voice appearing in Kaladin's head last week? Yes. I'm only human, and I tend to not trust that which I do not know. But now that Wit has vouched for the wind, I'm feeling more comfortable with this association. "When this world was created," Wit said, "long before honor, cultivation, or odium arrived, Adonulcium left something behind on it. Sometimes it's called the Old Magic. Sometimes that term is applied to the Night Watcher, who came, with cultivation's efforts, from one of these ancient spren. Listen to the wind when it speaks, Kaladin. It's weaker than it once was, but it has seen so very much." And my reading buddy pointed out to me that this makes the wind the deeper magic from the dawn of Roshar.
Do not cite the deep magic to me, witch. I was there when it was written.
And I changed my mind. Now I find it very interesting that the wind first appeared responding to the call of the tune of the Wandersail. "Wit played it for us on the Shattered Plains," Kaladin said, "back when we first met him. The story of the Wandersail. Long ago," Wit said softly, "that rhythm guided humans across the void, from one planet to the other. They followed it to reach your world. One of the rhythms of Roshar," Syl said with a nod, "made into a song with the tones of the gods. Gods older than yours." I find it curious because the Wandersail tells of men sailing to the land beyond the sea to find the realm of an emperor who is dead in the top room. And we know that Tanavast is equated to this dead emperor in the top room at the end of the Way of Kings. So, by transitive property, if Kaladin is the son of Tanavast, who is the emperor across the sea, who is dead, that makes Kaladin the son of the emperor across the sea, which happens to be a title of Aslan. All this to say, I will stop rolling my eyes when people call Kaladin Rosharan Jesus, with the note that Sanderson is not Lewis and does not do direct allegory, but he does do variations on a theme. Is the theme sacrifice on the stone table? I don't know. Epigraphs. Who knew 3 little lines of text could be completely mind-blowing? The wind told me, before she vanished, that it was the change in Odium's vessel that restored her voice. I wonder, perhaps it is the new storm, making people begin to reconsider that the wind is not their enemy. Let's be a bit pedantic about that first sentence, because I think it will change drastically how people interpret this for theorizing. The wind told the author that her voice was restored after the change of Odium's vessel, presumably all before the author started writing Knights of Wind and Truth. So the question is, when did she vanish? Is it between the time of telling and the time of writing? Or is she just talking about when she was weakened before Odium's change of vessel? Is the wind, as Kaladin now knows it, going to vanish or die during Wind and Truth? Or is she going to somehow become a reoccurring character companion for our flying bridge boy? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I also assume that the change of Odium's vessel refers to the ascension of Taravangian, so this probably wasn't written during the time of heraldic epics. The next epigraph indicates, to me at least, that the wind will die sometime before Knights of Wind and Truth is written. As the author informs us, I have read that in the ancient days, the wind often spoke to both human and singer. It would then mean that the wind stopped talking not because of Odium, but because of people who began to fear her, or to worship the storm instead. Why would the author need to have read about the history of the wind when it seemed they could have asked simply the winds themselves before writing it down? On another note, I love that Sanderson seems to be using religious syncretism as an explanation for why the wind at some point earlier went silent. I had theorized about religious syncretism and the effect of Spren on Roshar during my Ba Edo Mishram theory. While this doesn't completely disprove that theory, I'm glad to see that parts of the pretty much defunct theory resonate with the actual text. It makes me very happy.
And I've never been so happy to be proven wrong.
Since honor and cultivation aren't originally from Roshar, which implies they connected to the planet's spirit web through the use of Spren, cultivation used what is now the Night Watcher, and honor used the wind and changed it to the storm, sorta. Lastly, this epigraph seems to reinforce Sanderson's long-standing distinction between the wind and the storm, as Kaladin noted during his fight with Zeth in Words of Radiance. Wind attacked him, tossing him about, and no lashings could prevent this. He might be master of the winds, but storms were another thing. With the reveal of the Storm Faker and Dalinar's impending doom at the Battle of the Champions, it seems like the presence of Rosharan divinity is shifting on the winds, from the powerful blast that shakes the mountain to that quiet voice of light in the silence. Rider of Winds. This begins for me, of course, with not liking the wind. Now, beneath all the tropes I mentioned last week, it struck me that, fundamentally, Kaladin's arc, In the Way of Kings, was about him deciding that he was not merely a sinner in the hand of an angry god, but rather a man with free will and volition, able to control his own destiny. So Kaladin is a rare fantasy protagonist who is not the chosen one, but rather the one who chose. And that is a big part of the Stormlight Archive. So the wind showing up randomly and saying, hey, I messed your life up before and now I'm going to mess it up again, seemed to undercut that level to the archive itself. But after the latest chapter drop and over on the Cosmere Corner in Discord, it came up that technically Kaladin had, freely of his own volition, claimed the winds themselves at the end of Words of Radiance. You sent him to the sky to die, assassin, Kaladin said, stormlight puffing from his lips. But the sky and the winds are mine. I claim them, as I now claim your life. Those words, I think, were accepted in ways that neither him nor the fandom could completely fathom, as is the nature of unconditional acceptance. Sanderson knew we wouldn't be ready for this, and in the 3.0 draft, just had Wit telling Kaladin some vague advice about flute playing. And learn to play the flute, Kaladin said flatly, without playing it. which I guess is one way to describe the wind, who is, by the way, a sapient divine person, creation of Adonalcium himself, play the notes of the flute back to you on the wind. Yeah, and I think most of the fandom, wrote play the flute without playing it off as a mere wittism.
Beyond what I see. Get a load of the monkey getting all existential on me.
So, it seems that Sanderson had to be much more direct with us this time. Now, practice that flute. Get Roshar to listen, help Ishar, but know that you're not coming back to aid Dalinar, whatever he thinks. Practice the flute, Syl said. Get Roshar to listen to us, help Ishar, don't come back. During this conversation, Wit equivocates the wind with Roshar itself, which I find very interesting, as prior to this chapter, there was a leading fan theory that Ba-Ado Mishram was, in fact, the corrupted spren of Roshar herself. I thought that had some merit, but fell short because Roshar was such a big thing and Ba-Ado Mishram wasn't. However, Pattern uses a curious choice of words on top of lasting integrity in Chapter 3 that might just bridge the gap between these two concepts. Mishram became like a god to the singers, the Parshmen. She connected to Roshar, and echoes of that filtered to the spren. So wonderfully odd. Her imprisonment is the reason broken bonds now have such an effect on the spren. Is Pattern implying that Ba-Ado Mishram somehow, like Honor before her, bonded the wind in order to connect with inhabitants of Roshar, specifically the singers? Though, when Malishi captured Ba-Ado Mishram and cut her off from the lands of the living, that severing also impacted the wind and Honor's connection to his residence of Roshar, the Radiance. And with Honor weakened, he was unable to reforge the bond, so he just shoved what remained of himself, probably, into the Stormfather and up and died. This raises a further question. If Spren can bond weakened gods, like the Stormfather and Honor, or Ba-Ado Mishram and the Wind, then could Syl bond the wind? After all, she's so mature now, and I think the wind somehow vanishes between now and the time of the writing of Wind and Truth. Thus, Kaladin could survive as a mere human wind runner bonded to the most powerful bondsmith spren of Roshar itself. And I prefer this option to Kaladin dying, which is always an option. This is Sanderson, failure is an option. Though it does seem a waste for Kaladin to have been giving a connection-forming, world-hopping flute right before he gets bonded to the essence of Roshar indefinitely. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Will Kaladin die or become a new type of bondsmith, or embrace his inner Peter Pan and fly the stars like Shallan and Dalinar now seem to be poised to do? Thanks for watching! Bye!